Good afternoon. I feel like breathy all the time lately. I'm not feeling very well. I'm dealing with this sickness, and it's okay though. I work even when I'm sick. It's sometimes like I deal with, when I'm not sick, I deal with procrastination issues, not wanting to work days, and then so when I'm sick, it's like I want to work, but I don't feel well, but I still work. So today we're working on a crown royal quilt. I already have the fabric on. Roxy, don't be mean to Cookie. She literally blocked her in to where she can't get out. Roxy, there is a civil war happening in my house with the old ladies and the baby puppy. The baby puppy has no manners, no rules, and no obedience, and my old ladies are getting tired of her. So, let me show you what's going on. We're gonna call these Roxy shenanigans. Nope. She's trying to love you, Ma. She's trying to love you. She's trying, and you don't want her. But that's your bed, right? So I just put a very big piece of batting. I think this is 108 by 105. The quilt is 97 or 95. And hopefully Roxy gets tired. Let's go. So this is the quilt. Isn't she beautiful? Oh, she's a lot. I'm sorry. But I got her for you. I got you for Lily. When I put on the design on this quilt, I didn't like it very much. So I am unstitching like a whole area of the quilt. Now this was very densely quilted. It just overtakes the quilt. You don't see the quilting. So sometimes you're gonna have to just unstitch a quilt. I'm using my wonderful tool. So I just finished unstitching this quilt, and you see thread everywhere in the back. And I'm going to start cleaning all of this thread off. You want to clean the thread right now because you don't want it to be traveling towards the back of the quilt and then you're having to clean later. It's scratching towards the set area like this, and then you have your clump of thread. So I'm gonna be cleaning all this back. I didn't expect to be unstitching today, but it happens. And I'm going to start scratching, believe it or not. Another thing is, I'm gonna pull this fabric up, get all the thread. It's not a lot of thread because I already done a lot of work on the back, on the underside. Now, the batting, I got my iron going again, and now you see that the quilt is very full of thread. Everything off of it, just like you see me there. But you see, because I have been working the fabric, it is a bit petally, and I also have an open seam that I'm going to have to stitch down. One of my favorite tools are these, of course, and this. This is a thread picker. It literally will get the thread up. It doesn't want to pull the thread up as much on the fleece, but it is doing a great job at pulling the thread up and clumping it into clumps. I had to unstitch a section because it looks so bad. And so, I literally am starting over. I'm having to start over again. And I'm hot and sweaty. And I took the quilt off because there was 2 seams that opened. But I think it's gonna quilt beautifully now. Sometimes I thought I'd be done by now, but sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. You know what I mean? You just don't know. Alright, so today's a different day. It's morning. It's about 9 o'clock. And everything that could go wrong went wrong with this quilt. So what I was planning to do is get it done. I had to unstitch it. And then it just, anyway, she's been a lot. But also too, I got up here late and just things didn't go as smooth as they could have. But I got her going on Monroe too. It's the next day. Totally different day. The pattern that I had before was very cluttered. And this quilt has so much piecing in it that I felt like it overpowered the quilt. And it happens. I picked a bad pattern. Well, that's the pattern the client wanted. Kind of, it fits the quilt really beautiful, of the style of the quilt, Crown Royal, but it just overtook it. So I put a different pattern on here, and I'll show you what that looks like. I changed the design into a less quilted design. This quilt has a lot of beautiful piecing, and so you want to have it like breathe. And the quilting I was putting on it was overloading the quilt. One of the things that I'm looking at as I look at this quilt, I'm looking at some of this puckering. So I'm going to spray it and iron it. And it's not puckering anywhere else. Like this is a pucker. And I want to flatten it as much as I can. So as it's on the long arm right now, I'm stabilizing it. Like this was shifting a lot, and I don't want any shifting. Her border is feathering. So I have wet her with, sometimes I water down my starch, but I'm literally using the full starch right now so that I could kind of like work her straight. It's a lot of the shifting has to do with this fabric. What I did is I starched it, let the starch dry in the fiber, and then I just re-ironed it. But she is quilting beautifully. I think she's quilting beautifully. All this feathering on the border is something that I'm gonna have to iron out. Sometimes this bias seam causes problems. But you can see she's feathering. So when you see a quilt doing this, know that the border will have fullness. I did have fullness here, and you can even see how I tucked that fullness in this space and tried to move the fullness, spread the fullness out. This is the thread I'm using. Looks beautiful in the back. She's kind of leaning a bit. What I'm gonna do is I just soaked her with starch. And I'm trying to straighten out the lines as much as I can. This piecing is beautiful. I'm not saying anything about it. It's this fleece stuff that it stretches and shifts a lot. So this area is not that bad. The stretching is not that bad. And I'm kind of just rubbing everything down with my hand. I'm trying to just kind of like let it, like you can see where it's stretching here and where it's stretched here. So I'm going to kind of like, I noticed that if I push the fabric towards the seam this way, it tends to kind of realign itself. So that's what I'm going to try to do, but there's some issues up here, so we're going to figure this out. So I unstitched the quilting that went in this area right now, so that I could straighten this area out. Two things I could do. I could put a seam right here, and I think that would be the best thing to do so I could straighten out the quilt more, because if not, they'll be feathering all the way down and it's warping the quilt this way. I think this is a seam where I could fix it. So this is the best I could do for now. Steamed this area, and I've had it as flat as I possibly can. I try to move any fullness towards the seam so it's inside that space, like it's full here. I finished her. She was a soul sucker. Alright, I'm gonna bring you over here. I'm having to, I had to create a pleat here. It's already stitched this purple down. I'm gonna stitch this down real sweet, and then I'm gonna stitch this yellow. It's not the maker that, for the reason why I had a pleat, it's this flannel. It's this fabric. And she paper pieced it and was paper pieced beautifully, but the issue is it's the flannel stretches. Roxy, no bite. Okay. You kind of like her. Look at you wagging your tail. She's not that bad. She's not that bad. You're a good girl. You're a good mama. No. Do not be... Stop barking at her. Row, 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 row. She's a good mama. She's been gentle with you. That's her bed, Roxy. There's another bed right there, Cookie. You can get in this one. It's a better one too. Come on. It's a better bed. Come on. It's a better bed. Roxy,